Welcome to another edition of Panther Sports Talk right here on WIU. Coming up on today's program, season preview of the football season, also a season preview of rugby, all that and much more right here on Panther Sports Talk.
Production for Panther Sports Talk is brought to you in part by Johnson's Automotive Service is a proud supporter of Panther Sports on WEIU. Johnson's has alignment checks along with oil changes. Located at 800 Madison in Charleston. Johnson's Automotive Service, keeping your life running.
And welcome to another edition of Panther Sports Talk, a football kickoff edition right here on WIU. We're joined by EIU football coach Dino Babers. And Coach, we're in the studio for the first time for you, so I'm glad that new things this season, not a new era anymore. We can't use that phrase. This year's phrase, defend our house. And part of that is due to the fact that you guys were successful at home, 5-0, but also going to defend a conference championship, so a little added pressure this season on the team.
Well, I think no doubt. Obviously, it's a little bit different than being picked last and sneaking up on some people and winning the conference. And now we're out front. Everybody's got it circled on their calendars, so to speak, and then their schedules. And it's going to be a difficult, challenging, but hopefully rewarding year.
Now, the schedule starts off at San Diego State. We'll talk a little bit about them to start off, and then we'll talk more about Eastern's team as we go on in the program. But San Diego State, a team that you're very familiar with, having grown up in the San Diego area, but people in the Midwest may not be familiar with how good that program is for two reasons. One, they don't play in what's now the Pac-12 conference, but two, a lot of people don't realize that people do play football 2 hours later than what time zone we're on out on the West Coast.
Well, rightfully so. San Diego State's always been one of the premier programs west of the Mississippi. First of all, it's a transfer haven for all the Pac-12 athletes. When they go up there and they want to transfer to a school, that's usually where they end up at, is back at San Diego State. It's got a great tradition. It's got a proud tradition, numerous of #1 draft picks and draft choices in the National Football League, most recently Marshall Faulk. But I think the biggest thing about all that stuff is it's been a place where they talk about the cradle of coaches out here in the Midwest with Miami, Ohio. San Diego State has that same distinction. There's been outstanding football coaches at that institution, and it's one of the few institutions in college football where you can be the head football coach at San Diego State, go to sleep and wake up the next day and be the head football coach in the NFL. It carries that much weight, and it's going to be a very, very interesting contest.
Now, Don Coryell being one of the people you're talking about, that a lot of people would know that name, like to air the ball out a little bit, and maybe might have been years ahead of kind of where the game is nowadays out there on the West Coast, and maybe a little bit of a forefather of what's known as that West Coast offense. So San Diego State has typically played with those specialists that you talk about, the wide receivers, the running backs, the defensive backs. And is that kind of the same makeup of the team now, or are people going to see something a little bit different?
They're going to see a little bit different, but I got to correct you on something. I wouldn't be a true San Diegan if I don't. Don Coryell was part of what we call the vertical stretch offense. Okay. This offense is throwing the ball down the field, deep throws, more like what the St. Louis Rams were doing with Mike Martz when they won the Super Bowl under Dick Vermeil. The West Coast offense is more short, precise passes. But
that's why you're the coach.
But that being said, Coach Brady Hoke, who was at the University of Michigan, kind of changed the history of that school, so to speak. He was back there, I believe, 2 years ago, went back and brought a Big Ten style of football to San Diego State. They're more playing smash mouth Big Ten football on the offensive part of it, yet they still have those dynamic skill players on offense for wide receivers and tailbacks and defensive backs, and really kind of brought the life back into that program after a couple of down years. They've always had the talent, but it wasn't showing up in the win column ever since Coach Hoke went there, and the defensive coordinator was Rocky Long, who is now the head coach. Obviously, they've turned that program around, and they've been on a series of winning streaks in bowl games and whatnot, and they're doing a great job.
And you talk about some of the success they've had. They won the Mountain West Conference last year, which people look at the teams in the Mountain West Conference, and a Boise State's in the Mountain West Conference, and a Hawaii's in the Mountain West Conference. So people know the names in that league, even though they may not know how good the football is in that league.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, they went to Boise State, beat Boise State. They went and beat the University of Nevada with Chris Ault in his very last season up there. And you're talking about programs that are turning out NFL quarterbacks, in the National Football League. So their season last year was, in some notes, maybe even better than the season we had last year. And I believe they've lost 4 or 5 players. They got 17 to 16 starters returning. This is going to be one heck of a contest, and you're playing a very, very veteran football team that's used to winning.
Now, where your strengths, I would say, are match up against maybe where their strengths are. I know you guys, both sides of the ball, put up what they think is going to be a preseason depth chart, and glancing at it real quickly with what you saw last year, they're a veteran group on their defensive side of the ball, not just in one area, but every guy on there has played at least 1 or 2 years for them and is very familiar with that system.
They have 9 returning starters on defense. All they lose is the 2 corners. And based off of the skill athletes that they have running around that place, I'm sure it wouldn't be too difficult to fill in those 2 corners. So they have 9 returners on defense. They're very skilled. Their defense is a 3-3-5. Rocky Long's been running that a very, very long time. It's unique, it's different, and it can cause you problems.
Now, transition into our team there, the strength of our team on paper, and you're the coach, so you can go either way on this, but people would look at automatically as the offensive side of the ball. We're a team that put up a lot of numbers last year, yards, touchdowns, scoring, you name it on the offensive side of the ball. We were up there near the top of the nation last year. The 2 players people are going to circle are your quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, wide receiver, Eric Laura. That's not all you have on offense, though.
It's not all that we have, but it's some of the best of what we've got. Obviously, the quarterback is special. JG is going to, I believe we've had 20 NFL teams at practice so far, and from what I'm hearing, we're going to have all 32. Eric speaks for himself, 136 receptions. I'm not sure that's been done at any level. And, I think the guy's exceptional. I think people are going to come in here and take a look at him and see the same thing that I see. We have a veteran crew in the backfield coming back. We've lost some guys on the offensive line. We think we've got some good guys to take those people's places. I think the biggest surprise, or what everybody's wondering, is how's the wide receiving core going to do. We lost our number 2 receiver, our number 3 receiver, our number 4 receiver, and some guys that haven't played a lot of football is going to have to step up. If those guys can step up and find a way to make some plays, then we might have a chance.
Okay. Coach, I think 31 teams might be what you get, because I'm going to tell you the one that I don't think is going to come is the one where the guy you used to coach with the Washington Redskins. He seems pretty entrenched there. They're probably not going to need a JG to come behind RG3.
I'm going to go with you on this one. 31 teams may come. You're exactly right.
Okay. Now, you talk about the offensive line there. You do have some veterans. I know people are coming and they're looking at Jimmy Garoppolo. They're looking at Eric Laura. The other guy who is going to get some looks because they're coming to look at other guys is Dom Pagliara. I mean, he's a specimen when you look at guys that body type could move on also into the next level.
There's no doubt. Big 77's out there, and he's running that tackle OT play, and they're seeing him pull around, and everybody's amazed at the big guy moving in space and making plays and fitting up on little cats about 6 feet tall. So there's no question Dom's going to be one of the leaders on offense, and he's a guy that's got an opportunity to go the next level.
I see that might be the one the Redskins come to see if they run that old counter tray that Joe Gibbs had.
And that would make it 32 teams. It would make me right.
And we're going to go back. Joe Gibbs also on that San Diego staff. So you talk about cradle of coaches guys, San Diego State staff, that cradle of coaches there. Go on the other side of the ball there, Coach. You guys do return a veteran group. I know a lot of people overlooked the defense last year because the offense is what people write about. They write about how many points you score. Very seldom, unless it's a 3-0 game or a 7-0 game, do they credit the defense with doing their job. You guys, when you're scoring, 28, 34, 42 points a game, the defense is holding them to that 14, 17 range. That's kind of where your expectation for them was probably last year.
Absolutely. I thought our defense was exceptional. I thought that the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season, obviously minus the playoff game, they were the key to the season. I mean, for them to go up to Eastern Kentucky and hold that football team on their field to 7 points so that we could have an opportunity to win the championship back here playing SEMO, a fine option team with Coach Samuel, I thought that the defensive coaches and the defensive players were did a fabulous job. When you start talking about our defense, I think you got to start with our defensive line. Obviously, Pat Wirtz, Dino up there up front, along with John. Those three guys are going to be the centerpiece that's going to anchor that defensive line for us. You move back to the linebackers. I really think that's the strength of our team. When you talk about Robert and Gristic and Camu and LaQuince McCall and Antonio Taylor, Helms, we are so deep with some young freshman faces that I'm not going to mention yet that they're going to pop up out there, that there's no doubt that's our deepest position, and we can do a lot of things with the way those guys like to run around and make plays. And then you go to the back end, even though we still have some young corners as far as experience with DJ Bland and Mr. Goodman and Mr. Walker and of course Petey, the crowd favorite. Everybody loves Petey. Those guys do a nice job on the perimeter, but our safeties with Nick Beard and Jordan Whitcliffe, those guys are anchors back there, and we really need those guys to have the seasons that they're capable of for us to have the defense that we need to win this championship.
Now you talk about the depth there. You guys really returned 8 starters from the defensive last year and some backups that are ready to come in. And I know talking to the defensive coaches, the linebacker group they think is as deep as it's ever been. And you kind of touched on it a little bit, is that there's guys that may not be able to get on the field, not because they're good, but because there's a guy in front of them and he's just a little bit maybe more familiar with the terms and the schemes and things like that.
You're always trying to build depth, and you're always looking for that next guy. People like to talk about first teamers and second teamers. Well, in the linebacker group, we have what we call 1.5 guys. We've got guys that are starters, but they're just playing behind exceptional players. That is a very, very deep group there. We could have a guy get hurt for a week or two, and we would just do fine at that position, where there's some other positions where we really have no depth.
Now, the other last group, the one that most people overlook, but as always, the integral part of the game is special teams. You guys have some depth there returning, and you have one of the steadiest kickers in all of FCS football in Canberra, and he's a guy that I know you feel confident with and maybe became more confident with. I know you're not a guy that likes to settle for field goals, but now with that ability of his to be able to be consistent, at least you have that option in your back pocket.
Cameron's a very mature guy. The more and more you're around him, the more you like him. There's no doubt. I believe he was 12 for 13 last year, first team all-conference kicker. Obviously, extremely confident in his skills and what he brings to the football team. We got a freshman snapper, AJ Hantak. He's going to do a fabulous job for him. He's exactly what we needed. He's replacing Adam Baker, who did a great job for us. And I think we're really solid in those two areas. I think we have Taylor Kerr and Scott coming back. We need to just make sure that we settle down in the kickoff and the punting stuff that we have going on. Cody Myers, another one that's going to do some kicking for us. We have a freshman, Cody, that we may bring out of his red shirt. It all depends on how those other guys gel and come along. We have a lot of kickers. They have a lot of experience, but we need guys besides Cameron to play up and to really do a nice job for us, because we need our special teams to be better than what they were last year.
Now, you talk about gelling and things like that. A lot of these guys have now played together for over a year. They played with a majority of your coaching staff. You had a couple of new coaches that came on the staff, but they were new coaches to Eastern and new coaches to the players, but guys that you've been very familiar with, 2 of them in particular, for quite a number of years.
Well, we got 3 new coaches. We got Shantarius Brock, who was a high school coach. He's helping Coach McLeod in the secondary. He's going to be handling our Detroit recruiting for us. He's a new member of our staff, along with Matt Maddox. Matt was an offensive lineman that played for Art Briles at the University of Houston. He was recently an offensive coordinator in the junior college ranks in Kansas, but he played in the up-tempo offense. So it was just something that I couldn't pass on, to give our young men on the O-line somebody with that much knowledge of up-tempo and exactly how they're going to field and exactly what they need and what they don't need. Sometimes when you have an O-line coach that hasn't been in this tempo, people are creatures of habit, so they're teaching things that they've always taught, and it's not necessarily needed in this style of offense. But when you get someone that's played in it, he's only going to be teaching the things that they need be proficient in up-tempo offense. And then of course, Coach Freeman came over to help Dino Babers with the defensive line. Both of those guys will be coaching the D-line together. And I've known Tom forever, and he's one of those when you say that an old ball coach, that's what Coach Freeman is. Excuse me for the word old, but he's a big-time ball coach. He's been to all the venues. He's seen it all. He is a walking library of knowledge, and you just can't put those guys to pasture. You got to find a place for them on your staff, because all they're going to do is make your young coaches better.
He's a San Diego State alum too, so it'll be a going home party for him as well when you go back there. Coach, it's going to be a season kickoff this Saturday coming up, the season opener at San Diego State. 7 o'clock Central Time, 5 o'clock Pacific. I got that right this time, Coach. You'll be able to hear the game on WIU and also on the Panther Sports Radio Network. We'll be right back with This Week in EIU Athletics.
Back to pass, Rappel over the middle. There's Lorig at the 15, spins away. He's to the 10, he's to the 5. Touchdown, Eastern Illinois. Eric Laura putting on a show.
Eastern Illinois Panther football is on WEIU. It's the home opener for the defending Ohio Valley Conference champions at O'Brien Field. EIU will battle Illinois State in the 102nd meeting between the in-state rivals. It's the Panthers and Redbirds, September 14th at 6. WEIU is your home for Panther football. Panther fans, here's what's going on in Panther athletics. Women's soccer starts the season 0-2, a 5-1 loss against Oakland at Lakeside Field, and then a 3-0 road loss at Northern Illinois. Men's soccer wrapped up their preseason schedule with 2 exhibition matches, a 4-0 loss at Butler, and a 2-1 loss at Lakeside Field against Dayton. Now here's what to watch for this week. On Friday, volleyball begins the new season. They're in Toledo, Ohio for a 4-game tournament. They'll take on Loyola Chicago at 9 o'clock, and then they'll take on Marist at 4 o'clock in their second game of action. Women's soccer travels north to Green Bay, Wisconsin to take part in a tournament. They'll take on Northern Iowa at 2 o'clock. And men's soccer, with their first match of the new season, they're at Illinois Chicago for a 7 o'clock match. On Saturday, volleyball with their third match of the Toledo tourney. They'll take on West Virginia at 9 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock, EIU will take on the host Toledo. Tennis with an alumni match at Darling Courts at 10 o'clock. Women's rugby with a 1 o'clock match at Lakeside Field against Quinnipiac. And Panther football begins the new season. They're in San Diego to take on the Aztecs of San Diego State at 7 o'clock. You can listen to that game on Hitmix 88.9 WEIU or watch online at the Mountain West Network. And on Sunday, women's soccer with their second match in Green Bay, Wisconsin. They'll take on the host Phoenix at 2 o'clock. For Panther Sports Talk, I'm Ramin Karbassian.
Welcome back to Panther Sports Talk. Now the women's rugby team will open its season this Saturday at home at Lakeside Field. A season preview of Frank Graziano's squad.
Better.
Panther Rugby had a tough start to the 2012 season with back-to-back losses, but they ended with a flourish, winning 6 in a row, including 5 on the road. Head coach Frank Graziano says while this year's team has a wealth of new players, he's excited to get the 2013 campaign underway.
Run out a little bit so she thinks, I better tackle. Right when she thinks that. Good girls, good. Excellent.
I think just the excitement of new players, I enjoy tremendously. Preseason camp, which is what we're in now for the 3rd day. The young ladies bring a great enthusiasm here, which makes me work even harder for them. And I enjoy it. Even though we're practicing 4 or 5 times a day, almost sunrise to sunset, they're giving me everything they can. They're great kids.
The freshmen are really producing and learning and catching on things really well, since none of them that are practicing with us have played rugby before in their high school careers. We have one recruit that has, but she is currently out right now, but she'll be back in a few weeks. And everybody else, though, is catching on, just like, because all of our athletic abilities are just coming out and everyone's learning.
Great job. job, guys, great job. Get out there, Miranda, get out there. Keep going. Come on. Right here. Miranda, get out there, Miranda. Come on, Alex, here we go. Ball.
We do have an enormous amount of speed. Almost half the young ladies we brought in as freshmen are all track athletes. Caitlin Hammock, local girl Miranda Hankins, Sarah Fisher, who came in here, all track backgrounds. We have Emily Thornton. All of these young ladies were all state qualifiers at the state track meet for IHSA, so we do have a tremendous amount of speed.
It's going well. We've been here since Monday. We started practice at 6:30 with our mile on Tuesday, and we've been going 4 days ever since. We're all pretty sore, and our strength is definitely our speed. We have at least 5 girls that can run sub 12 or 12-minute 100s or 12-second 100s, and that's really fast for a whole back line. So our strength is definitely our speed and how small we are, and we're just, even our props and our locks for second row are going to be fast.
Go. Oh! Right here. I'm here. Oh! Here we go. Here.
No, I just played it twice.
Good. Ready?
I don't want to get into it. Better. We're getting much better at this, girl.
Coach Graziano said that while the team's season opener at home with Quinnipiac isn't until August 31st, he thinks the team will be more than ready to take on the Panthers' NCAA Division I rival.
Not only the first game, but certainly being played against the coaching staff. Quinnipiac's being coached by my 2 former student athletes and 2 former assistant coaches, so we love playing Quinnipiac. Coach Carlson and I and Coach Reed, we speak almost daily. We're working on a game to play in Quinnipiac potentially, but it's great playing them. We love playing. They're a great challenge. They're coached sort of like I coached the same team here, so we're going to try and give them a new wrinkle this year, put in some new stuff for them.
Our NCAA rival is the Quinnipiac team, and we know that they're our first game coming up on the 31st of this month. And so right now we're just focused on them. We can't really look past any team, so we'll just go team at a time. So we look at the schedule, but it's only one team at a time.
We are adjusting the material. I am going to keep somewhat the same old material that works when I think this squad is ready. Right now, we're definitely going to put in some new wrinkles for Quinnipiac on the 31st.
Even though he has a lot of players just learning the game of rugby, Coach Graziano says all he asks is that they come to play every day.
Just a general knowledge of the game. Most of these young ladies, if not all of them, have never even seen the game of rugby, so we start out Rugby 101. This is how you hold the ball. But in a matter of 2 days, 2.5 days now, we're into training session number 10. They've picked it up pretty quickly. Are we ready to play Quinnipiac on the 31st? Certainly not, but we'll be ready on the 31st.
I kind of like having all of these freshmen on here on the team, because as long as we have leadership from the upperclassmen, then the freshmen are going to catch on. They're going to learn how to do things and how to do them right. So with good leadership, they're going to be great players when they get older, and even this year they're catching on, and they're going to be leaders themselves even as freshmen.
Just to work hard, just to give me your enthusiasm. Come to practice no matter how sore you are every day, willing to learn, and they're doing that. These are great kids. I'm really excited about this team.
Reporting for Panther Sports Talk, I'm Brad Kupiak.
WEIU is your home for Eastern Illinois Panther sports. Panther football.
2-point conversion. They throw it to Laura, running around the right end on a reverse. Throws a pass, and it is caught. The Panthers win.
Panther basketball.
To Akers cutting through. He's 2-on-1. Ahead to Blanford. A dunk. There's a good way to break about an 8-minute scoring drought.
Panther greats. WEIU is your home for Panther sports.
We're going to wrap up another week of Panther Sports Talk right here on WIU. We're going to show you some of the highlight plays from last year's football season, but we want you to listen to this year's football season, which kicks off at 7 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Pacific for Coach Babers, who's a San Diego native. He's going to be on West Coast time. Feel right at home. Listen on WIU FM and on the Panther Sports Network.
two-point conversion. They throw it to Laura, running around the right end on a reverse, throws a pass, and it is caught. The Panthers win. Laura, of all people, throws the winning pass for the two-point conversion.
What a fitting end to this ball game.
Production for Panther Sports Talk is brought to you in part by Johnson's Automotive Service is a proud supporter of Panther Sports on WEIU. Johnson's has alignment checks, along with oil changes. Located at 800 Madison in Charleston. Johnson's Automotive Service, keeping your life running.